Hey everyone, it's Anson here from Weekend Garage. Today I'll be showing you guys what to look out for when you're buying a used C63s. That's because the repairs add up really quickly if you miss these signs. Okay, so first off, we're gonna do the basics, which is the exterior walk. We wanna make sure we're looking at all the headlights on both sides, as if there's scratches or condensation or cracks, these are 3,000 to 5,000 Canadian. All the prices I'm gonna talk about is gonna be in Canadian. So these are 3 to 5K to replace per side. And after you do an inspection on that, make sure there's no fog, no cracks, no scratches, and all the DRLs actually work, like each bulb, and the turn signals, the high beams and low beams, and the LED strip itself. This one actually has the LED intelligent light system, so when you turn on the auto high beams, your cameras will pick up the other vehicles on the road and automatically turn on and turn off the high beam as you drive on the highway. Second of all, you want to inspect every single sensor, which is these round things down here. These round things. You want to make sure it's not pushed in or the paint isn't different, because this is part of the radar system in your blind spot monitoring system. If there's dirt or it's damaged or it's broken, it may need recalibration or replacing, which is money. And this right here, if your vehicle, you take a look at this right here, if you have the painted on chrome Mercedes logo, that means this has the active lane assist and the adaptive cruise control, which will follow the vehicle in front of you in stop and go traffic and all that cool technology. If it's cracked, damaged, or it's pushed in, that costs money to replace. If yours is the actual Mercedes logo with vents, then you don't have to worry about this. Next up, while we're here, we want to take a look at the radiator inside. So what we're looking for is, big cracks or damage from rocks to these radiators, and even the one down here, as you can see. We're also looking at the one down here. So right there, we want to make sure there's no damages on there, as it gets very expensive. This is a couple thousand just for that piece. So if they're used to curbing or hitting the lip, it may damage that lower intercooler. You also want to look at the transmission oil cooler and the auxiliary cooler there. And there is another one on this side. So just make sure, visual inspection, that there's no leaks or punctures or damage on the front end of the radiator. Okay, next up, you want to check the body gaps on your vehicle. Make sure it's all even all throughout. Make sure there's been no accidents, or if there has been an accident, that's repaired properly. So even panel gaps all around the vehicle. And then we're going to look at the braking system. If you have the C63s version, you're going to have red brakes, which is the larger rotor, 6-piston with the 390 millimeter brakes. It's a 2-piece rotor, so these are very expensive. Make sure the wear on the edge isn't high, because to replace these, it's going to be more than 5,000 on all four corners. And if you have the carbon ceramics, which is the bronze colored caliper with the carbon ceramic disc, those are 20K to replace all four corners. So you want to make sure there's no cracks on your rotors. If you don't know what you're looking for, ask a mechanic friend or take it to shop to inspect that, because that'll add up. If you know how to look for yourself, make sure you don't forget that. The pads you can check just by looking down, and make sure you're looking at the tire wear. So on the outside on these C63s, the camber is pretty aggressive, so you can see the tread is fine out here, but if you look inside on the tread, it might be worn. So if that's the case, you have to replace these tires. Typically, the outside looks fine, like I was saying, and the inside where it's high. While you're here, you want to look under the vehicle. If you can't see it because it's so low, you use your phone and you put it on camera mode and just hit record a video, put your phone down there and look all around and just make sure there's no scratches, leaks, or damages. Best case scenario is that you put it on the actual lift so you can see everything, and if the torque marking specs, where they mark the torque specs, are still there, if there's rust or damage or missing bolts or even missing undercarriage trays. But sometimes we don't have the luxury of putting it on a lift, and you can do it with your phone. And also, we're going to take a look at the engine after. So we want to make sure the panoramic glass roof functions all work. It has a tilt and slide back, and once it slides back all the way, you can actually pull the lever even more and it'll go back even farther. The sunroof frame cracks sometimes. You want to make sure that it's fully functional and there's no issues with the sunshade as well. So there's 4 automatic keyless locking features on this vehicle. It's on all 4 doors. If you take a look up close here, it looks like this. We want to make sure it works on all 4 doors. So when you touch it, it should all lock. If you touch the back, it'll unlock on all 4 doors. It doesn't lock right now because I have one of the doors open. We want to make sure the gas cap feature, people miss this. We want to make sure it works. So you hit it, it comes out. It's an electronic locking mechanism right here. If you take a look, when you lock the vehicle, this will lock as well. You want to make sure your gas cap, no one's cut the wire. Just this will tell you if the previous owner is taking care of it or is beat on, if it's coming apart. This being the S model, you actually have the adaptive AMG suspension. You can set 2 levels of stiffness and comfort mode. So we want to make sure the shocks aren't leaking. I know it's hard to see, but you want to make sure you look in there and see that there's no leaks or puddles. The suspension, when you go for a test drive later, you want to make sure there's no play in your control arms or ball joints, because those are $500 to $900 per piece. They don't sell the ball joint itself. It comes in a whole arm. So on any AMG model, if you look up close, on the 63s, you're going to see some bluish tint on here. That's because it's been parked in the sun. And over time, it just turns that bluish color. So you're going to see it on a lot of the models, whether it's a GLE 63, E63, S63, you name it, every model, even up here where you put the ski racks, it's going to turn a little blue. That's very common on these vehicles. Actually, it's almost on all of them, you're going to see this. And once we get to the rear, same thing. You want to check your brake rotors, your brake pad wear, make sure there's no leaks on the rear shocks. Especially on the 63 models, you want to take a look back here. So the reason why we want to take a look at the back splash shield here is because if the previous owner has been doing a lot of burnouts or crazy driving, you're going to see burnt rubber stuck all along here. As you can see, that's not the case on this vehicle. So as we're in the back of the vehicle, we want to check all the sensors once again, make sure there's no substance covering it or it's not pushed in. You want to make sure your AMG tips are stock. These are the night package tips, so they're blacked out. Original should be silver. Make sure there's no dents all around. And check your tail lights. Hit the indicator, hit the brakes, hit the reverse light, make sure there's no burnouts. And the license plate frame light, check the function of the tailgate. So when you kick or press the button, it'll open automatically. So if I use my feet and I do that, should open automatically without an issue. Excuse the dirt back here, but once you lift this up, this panel, you should see all the accessories are there. As you can see, the spare tire, the tire wheel locks, and everything that came with the vehicle. The manual, the first aid kit, everything should be back here. And then once you hit it, it should close without an issue, and it should pull it into place. There's 2 separate mechanisms. One is responsible for tightening it, which is a tension string on that side. It'll actually pull the cover tight. And the motor to pull the trunk down is on this side. So there's 2 motors on each side. Make sure both the functions work. So when you go in the vehicle, we're just checking for general wear and tear. Make sure it's not ripped apart. This is where your elbow goes. You can see if there's heavy wear and tear. That doesn't match the mileage. You can check for the buttons. Make sure the paint hasn't come off. People who are really rough with it, you can actually wear the whole paint off for any of these buttons, even the steering wheel. The volume controls, make sure the Alcantara is not scratched to the point where you can see the bare skin, and the seat bolstering is in good place. If it's got very low kilometers like this one, it should look practically brand new. If it's been rolled back, the seats look really beat up, and the kilometers are low. That doesn't make sense because this car has about 40,000 kilometers, which is 20-something thousand miles. It should look brand new and pristine. So now we're going to pop the hood and show you guys what to look out for. As when it gets to the drivetrain, that's when it gets expensive. So once we've popped the hood, we want to open it here. And this is what we got to look out for. I took the aluminum shielding off right now because I had catless downpipes installed. Haven't put that back yet. So when you are in the engine bay, we're looking for leaks. You want to inspect every crack and crevice that there hasn't been leaks. So you got to check, each corner, bring a flashlight, check everywhere, make sure there's no leaks. The parts are OEM, everything's labeled AMG. So if you got some random pipe here, be wary of that. Also, make sure these air filters aren't cracked because when people are pulling it apart, they damage the plastic. So on both sides. Make sure the coolant level is up to spec. As you can see, we've got high level coolant. So why you got to check the coolant is if the previous owner didn't care, it's running on dry coolant. It just goes to show how the vehicle is taken care of. If they don't even bother filling up the coolant, you know, they probably don't care about the maintenance. If you have full maintenance records, that's the best, but that's hard to come by unless you're buying a CPO car. This is a CPO car. They cost a little more, but it's worth the headache if you have the full records. So when you're here, you want to make sure all the plastics are fine, because that really highlights if the car's been taken care of. So when you open this, that's the brake fluid reservoir. Make sure the fluids are fine. If they've taken it to a shop where they don't know what they're doing or they don't care, these are going to be ripped off. And these are going to be missing because they just don't know how to work with it. So there's 3 here, 3 of these locking tabs. You want to make sure each side is fine. You can also open this, and that's where the air filter is. That's the oil measuring stick for the M177 engines. You can check the oil as well by pulling that out and reading the oil level. You want to make sure the turbos are still stock. There's no catless downpipes in there. If you're looking for an unmodified vehicle, I would say look for an unmodified vehicle if you can. They're hard to come by, and you can modify it yourself down the road. Just because you don't know how far they've pushed it, maybe you just want to go stage 1 or exhaust, but they've already took it to stage 3 with meth, and you know they've gone crazy with it. You don't want to do that because that's going to cause a lot of strain on the engine if you're not ready for it. If you're just looking for a stock car and it's already stage 3, the upkeep will cost a lot more. If you're looking for a stage 3 car, you can go ahead and buy a stage 3 car. It just, for me, I like to take it there myself as opposed to buying someone else's build. While you have the hood open, you can do a cold start or a warm start, have a friend come here and listen to make sure there's no timing chain rattles or weird noises from the alternator or anything, because this is such a tightly packed engine. A lot of the work that has to be done, you got to drop the engine or bring the engine out of the vehicle just to do the work. Look how tightly packed it is. Considering it's a V8, you can't even put your hands in between anything, as opposed to the old engines like our CLS 550 we had. We could work on it with the engine still in it. This one you got to take it out, so make sure it's perfectly good before you make the purchase. The purge valves here, there's rattles sometimes, but we'll talk about that later. But when you have the hood open and you do an engine or you do a start, you can hear out everything. Make sure there's no rattles on the exhaust valves. So when you start the vehicle, there's no rattles under the vehicle. There's 3 valves on this vehicle, 2 in the rear where the muffler is and 1 in the X pipe. If those are stuck, it's going to make a rattle or cause a check engine light. So there's some common leaks on the higher mileage cars in the front of the engine. And the rear main seal in between the transmission and the engine, that leaks quite often, as we've seen. So now we're going to check out the inside of the vehicle. Make sure you have an OBD reader so you can put the ignition on and read all the codes to see if there's faults. Because if you're having radio faults or rear controller faults or any controller faults, this adds up very quickly in these vehicles. Because even the door sill plate, if you want to buy a replacement, it's $600–700. We're talking Canadian here, but still, once you go into the vehicle, we want to make sure every function works. So if we have all these technologies here, heads-up display, parking sensors, lane keep assist, steering assist. This is the rear fog light, which is pretty cool. When you press it, one side of the brake light, the driver's side, will have a brighter red LED shining backwards so that people don't rear end you in the fog. We want to make sure everything works. You have the start-stop button. There's no wear and tear that's too severe on the vehicle or on the steering wheel. And all these buttons work. We're just going to hit every single button, and even the moonroof, like I told you guys earlier. I'm just going to try every light, you know, all the sunroof functions, and everything in the interior. Pretty much basics that a lot of people miss, but that adds up after. If you open this, that's a option, ambient air, fragrance release from Mercedes. So just essentially, you got to check every single function in the vehicle, make sure the vents aren't broken, you know, you can twist it. Details that people miss. So another thing a lot of people miss is the keys. You want to make sure you have at least 2 keys for the vehicle. These are $2,000 each if you have to reprogram new ones from the dealer. It's a complicated process and very expensive. So when you guys are taking the vehicle out for a test drive, you're not going to beat on the vehicle and bash on it right away. You want to take it to a parking lot, take it really slow, put all your windows down, turn the radio off, max out your steering wheel, and do a full 2 or 3 circles full turn, you want to hear if there's any issues with the suspension or the low speed with the differential. If the differential is beat, you're going to hear clicking or clanking and issues with the transmission where it doesn't want to engage. So you want to max out your wheel, low speeds in the parking lot, and listen to the vehicle. After you do one side, you're going to go on the other side. Once you warm it up and it's ready to take it to speed, you want to cycle through all the gears and make sure there's no clunks when you're shifting through the gears, upshift or downshift. These are expensive items that will add up very quickly. Even if you see the vehicle you like, don't get emotionally attached to it, because there's always going to be a cleaner and better one out there. So make sure you guys do an educated inspection on the vehicle before you make the purchase. So at Weekend Garage, we cover everything from maintenance to upgrades for the C63s and other 63 models. We even have catless downpipes, which we just put in recently. We supply it on our website, weekendgarage.com. And if you have any questions, you can leave them down in the comments below. If the vehicle you're looking at is clean or not, if you should pull the trigger, or if you want to know how to do a certain maintenance item, you can leave them down below. We even cover servicing the rear differential, to the transmission, to oil change, to coolant, you name it. Everything for this vehicle, for the tutorials, it is on our channel. So make sure you like and subscribe so you stay tuned for future updates. Anyways, thank you for watching, everyone. See you guys in the next one.